Hello, welcome to another Page and Pint video. Today I'm going to go over my May reads. May? Yes, May reads. And before we do that, I'm drinking a Going Coastal IPA by Sweetwater Brewing Company. It's a pineapple IPA, so cheers. Going Coastal is, I think, one of Sweetwater's best. When I think about a fruited IPA, I think of uh, IPA first and any kind of fruit second. Like the fruit shouldn't be leading the charge on flavor. If you think of like the New Belgium fruit force and all that heavy artificial fruit stuff, that's not what this is. This is a solid base IPA and then just a little bit of sweet pineapple notes, but nothing overwhelming. So great beer. If you see it, pick it up. All right, June books. I finished Lonesome Dove, which we covered last time at the beginning of May. Yes, the beginning of May. One book I read while I was reading Lonesome Dove, and I think this is technically an April read for me, but I never talked about it, is 19 Claws and a Blackbird by Augustina Baztericca, who wrote Tender as the Flesh. I loved this book. I read it in a one or two sittings. It's a short story collection. It's dark, like Tender as the Flesh, but not quite as it's not disgusting. Like you read Tender as the Flesh and it will ruin your week and just like weigh on you. This wasn't as graphic's not the right word. Just sort of Tender as the Flesh was grotesque, and this is violent at times, but they're really unique stories. And I found myself after each one sort of being like, how do you even think of that? Which is my favorite kind of I wouldn't call this horror, but my favorite kind of dark stuff to read is kind of just twisted, not necessarily like scary or violent, and that's what this is. The first story is just this, I think it's a woman, if I'm remembering it right, standing out on her porch, and her upstairs neighbor from several floors up drops and lands right in front of her. And it's just that moment sort of described uh, over one story. And it like that's what sucked me in. I was like, I'm gonna love this because it just really gets you inside of some pretty weird people's psyche. Great book. I read it really fast, and this was like 4 books ago, so I don't have a clear memory of each story, but I do remember really enjoying each one. I didn't think there was a dud in the bunch. Next up is The Pearl by John Steinbeck. Arguably my favorite author, I think I would say, comfortably. I haven't read all of his stuff, obviously. I have a lot of his books, but I'm slowly making my way through his work. The Pearl, I think you would consider it a parable. It's a short story. It's basically a husband, a wife, and their young child. They're extremely poor, and they dive for pearls. And one day they find a giant pearl, and it kind of is it's a story about greed, about social class. It's a wild journey. There's also a commentary on gender that I didn't expect. That was pretty enlightening stuff. I just love Stein. I've said this in my post. I think Steinbeck could write about anything, and I'd read it. I actually wrote down a quote. My favorite from the book. So the wife is Juana, and Kino is the husband and father. He said that I am a man, and that meant certain things to Juana. It meant that he was half insane and half God. It meant that Kino would dive his strength against a mountain and plunge his strength against the sea. Juana, in her woman's soul, knew that the mountain would stand while the man broke himself, that the sea would surge while the man drowned in it. And yet, it was the thing that made him a man, half insane and half God. That's just some Steinbeck goodness. I loved it. I don't think I'll hit a Steinbeck I don't love, but we'll see. Maybe the day will come. One book I don't have here because I lent it to someone is Theo of Golden by Alan Levi. I loved it. 5-star book. It's just wholesome and cozy. It's about a mysterious man who comes to this small Georgia town. Nobody really knows anything about him, and he wanders into a coffee shop. And there's all these a local artist did all these portraits of people in the town, and they're all over this coffee shop's wall. And he begins to purchase them, and then find the subject of the portrait, and then sit down with each subject of the portraits and get to know them, and then gift them the portrait that he purchased. What it turns into is a lot of these really heartfelt stories. You fall in love with the guy's name is Levi. You fall in love with Levi. You fall in love with the town of Golden, and it's just oh man, it's a warm blanket of a book, and it is so. I think it's considered Christian fiction, which I didn't know. So if you look it up and see that, don't if you're not religious, don't let that sort of keep you from reading it because it's not. It doesn't hit you over the head with it at all. I guess looking at it through the lens that it's a Christian fiction, you can kind of piece together like, okay, that makes sense. But you're not. It's not overwhelming, or it didn't leave a bad taste in my mouth. I loved it. Not that Christianity leaves a bad taste in my mouth. I feel like I worded that wrong. But all I mean is, it's not. You could absolutely be completely atheist or a different religion and enjoy the book. Speaking of enjoying books, I also read Orbital by Samantha Harvey, and I didn't enjoy this book, unfortunately, because I was really looking forward to this one. I don't know who I heard this from or where I read that it was a romance. I thought this was a love story set in space, and maybe going into that kind of messed up my perspective. This book has no plot. It takes place on the space station. Is it the space station? Yeah, it's the space station. Yeah. Orbiting. Oh, Jesus. Uh, takes place on the space station orbiting Earth, and it's like a full 24 hours of orbit, and you don't even get to know this crew that deep. It's a lot of descriptions of Earth from space that just sort of repeat over and over again. You hear descriptions of Africa, and then they're over North America, then they're in like it's just sort of that. There's a tsunami happening, so they describe what the tsunami looks like heading towards these islands. Then that's the book. It's beautiful, and I think if this was like 20 pages, I would be like, wow, really pretty book. I didn't, yeah, it's just not for me. So, last up, The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. I love this. I haven't read anything else by Fitzgerald. I bought Tender as the Night, so I'm going to read that next. Not immediately, but the next Fitzgerald that I'll read will be that. I didn't remember anything about this plot. I remembered there was a rich guy and he had parties and he looked across a lake at a green light. I read it in middle school or maybe my freshman year of high school, and that's all I remembered. It's a lot more than that. I didn't like the character of Gatsby, which I don't know if that's how you're supposed to feel or not. I haven't really read up on other people's opinions or like watched any video. Usually when I like finish a book, I like to go on YouTube and look it up and see what people say about it. That's kind of what spawned me starting this channel. I haven't done that about this, and I don't know if I'm not sure if I have a unique perspective in this case, but his like obsession with Daisy never loving another man and like living life without loving him for periods of time being like a huge problem for him was kind of gross, and I felt really bad for him only because his head was just so scrambled with that sort of possessiveness. So yeah, he's an interesting character. I always thought of Gatsby as like a super lovable character. I didn't realize that he was sort of I don't know the word I'm looking for. Obviously, he's tormented by lost opportunity and the way he chose to live his life and not being with Daisy. It's just the possessiveness that was weird. And I don't know if that was intentional by Fitzgerald, but yeah, I think he's a complex character, which makes for a good book. So that's it. That's what I've read. I'm reading three books right now at the same time, which I hate doing, and I don't know how I've ended up here. I'm reading, it's on my counter, Angel Down by Daniel Cross. I don't know how to pronounce it, but I'm halfway through and I'm absolutely loving that book. I can't wait to finish it and talk about it. I'm re-listening to Project Hail Mary because I went on a sort of road trip with my wife and she hasn't listened to it, so we started listening to it. Now I need to finish it again. And I'm also listening to a book called Horror Movie, who I don't know the name of the author, but I'll put it here. So yeah, lots going on in the reading world for me, and I might just turn this into a monthly thing. I don't know. Every video I'm like, I'm gonna start doing that, but we'll see. I just make a video when I feel like doing that. All right, thanks for watching. Cheers.